rules against. In doing so, he outwits her, adding her own lie about there being no jam to have for tea. To the list of charges, Nicholas' mind returns to tapestry. He had been captivated by the lumber room. Thank you for hearing me.
Thank you, Arjun, for your wonderful presentation. Next, I would like to call one of the senior Barnagan to talk about Nightingale and the Rose.
Good evening, good evening, everyone. Today I am going to talk about the famous prose called Nightingale and the Rose. Nightingale and the Rose was written by the famous narrator called Oscar Wilde. Oscar Wilde was lived in a Victorian era in that uh, during 19th century, and he wrote many poems and short stories in his life, as we know that he was a very famous writer in that time period. So here, the narrator talks about moral that love, love is not uh, a simple thing. It is very beautiful and realistic, and it's in a he can introduces a talking bird called nightingale in order to portray the main idea theme of love in the prose Nightingale and the Rose. Um, First of all, we can know that Oscar Wilde is a famous writer who born in Irish poet, as he was written in this prose was written in the Victorian era. So in that time period, people are very corrupted, so that in order to, they are very materialistic. They only think about money. Here also, three main characters are portrayed. One is the professor's daughter, and next one is the student of philosophy, and Nightingale and the Rose, and there are many helping characters, Oak Tree, Lizard, and etc. But we should mainly focus about the three main characters and their characteristics as well, in order to get a better understanding about this prose Nightingale and the Rose. Uh, First, this prose starts with an introduction, as the student saying that if she said that she would dance with me if I brought her red rose. We know that usually in that middle-aged teenagers, they usually fall in love with others and girls. And so you hear the professor's daughter is the, and young student is loving the professor's daughter, and we know that she said that if she will dance with the young student if you brought her across. But in an literary way, we can see that she has an passionate love, and he is going to dance with just for dance with the professor's daughter. But in a figurative way, the love is not a conditional one. It is usually uttered in his two hearts and fully realistic. It shouldn't be a conditional love. But the professor daughter had said that if the student only bring a red roses, she will dance with me. But we all know that in the winter season there won't be any red roses in all over the world, but this professor daughter might be very high hypocritic and realistic in order to not to avoid the young student directly, but the we know that the professor's daughter avoiding the students proposals and rejecting indirectly as uh, punishing them in an mental way. As if we brought a red rose, the professor's daughter already know that there won't be a red rose in all over the world, so the student might won't be get any red roses anywhere. So the love and the connection between two each other will break, and this the professor daughter might think that if the students uh, is very poor, or she is no doesn't have money enough to treat her well. So the in the first line also we could say that the professor daughter is a materialistic person. Is the if clause here indicates the conditional love, and not a real one is emphasized here. But the student is not as much aware of the professor's daughter and his manipulation and all of that. But he only weeps that, but all in my gardens there is no red rose. But he only weeps just by searching in his gardens, not going anywhere else. But it is shows that the laziness of the students has he only search in his gardens, not other gardens like flourish, and they will also have red roses rarely. He could have asked others about the red rose, but he only searched in his garden about for a red rose. It shows the laziness and the impractical behavior of the students, as he is a student of philosophy. He only trusts theories and not a practical one. And then the nightingale in the next of the oak tree heard him, and he shook through of the leaves and wondered. Usually the birds doesn't understand what human beings talk about and utter about. But here the nightingale heard about the utterances of uh, the young students, and say that here is a true lover. It is only indicates the fairy tale elements, because usually in reality birds cannot understand humans, and humans couldn't understand the reality of birds, or how do they speak or what they speak. Here, in a figurative way, the narrator wants to emphasize that the nature can understand how human attracts, and how human reacts to other in love and materialistic and money. But the nature is an uncorrupted thing, so that it could understand anything like the real one, like love, passionate, and practication. And but this human being student couldn't understand what the nightingale sing. He only thinks that the nightingale only singing a song. It is just for the bird's reality, but he couldn't understand what the nightingale is thinking about, and praying God for this true hour. And the nightingale thinks that these beautiful eyes filled with tears, oh, what a little things that happiness depends. And now the nightingale realizes the in an only by seeing the utterances and hearing the utterances of the students in the garden and crying and weeping, he thinks that he is would be a true lover. It is says the theme of this main theme of this prose appearances versus reality, because in the appearances students seem to be a true lover, but and we can know that the student with an anger he through the sacrifice of the nightingale, and it flourished, and he again took his books and began to read. His and final utterance he said that love is not half as useful as logic. It is the last utterance of the student, but at starting point he says that she would dance with me if I brought her a red rose. In the starting of the prose, it seemed to be students real lover, but unfortunately, the nightingale mistook the appearance of the student and made an unuseful sacrifice just for a rose which thrown away in the road. And night after night, I will sing my song, and if I brought her red rose, she will dance with me till dawn. If I brought her red rose, I shall fold my arms, and she will lean up and here the visual imagery is portrayed as the students says about how he will enjoy themselves in the ball which uh, uttered in the tomorrow night in the princess castle, and she will lean her head upon my shoulder, and he is dreaming like a child for the love of the uh, professor's daughter. By these utterances, the nightingale further says that here indeed is the true lover. He really thinks that he is the only true lover which can be seen in this corrupted world. So he started to sing a very beautiful song for the student, and he another way is as he want to help the students, he sacrificed his own life just for making a red rose. So, for another, she says that what is joy to me, to him is pain. Usually, Nightingale sings songs in the noon and the night, but he says now it is joy to the nightingale, and but for the students it is pain, because love is a wonderful thing. It is more precious than emeralds, and there than fine oaks and pearls and pomegranate cannot buy it. Here, Nightingale thinks that love is the most precious thing in the world than the material things like emeralds, which could value more than money and cannot buy by poor people. So that Nightingale thinks that love is can't be by any merchants in the city and cannot wait it out in the balance of gold. But it is very irony that at the last of the prose, it is changed in another way, and it's juxtaposed with this stanza paragraph. In the last, the argument between the professor's daughter and the students clearly portrays how professor's daughter is materialistic and says it the flower is not value as the money. But here the nightingale is only aware of the true love and the romantic love, and he think says that love is most precious than anything here. And then the another utterance of the young students appeared as a visual image as musician will sit in the glory, and she will dance so lightly that her feet will not touch the floor. Here also the dream of the student is clearly portrayed as the she will dance so lightly that her feet will not touch the floor. Here uh, but another utterance is that she will not dance if I have no red rose to give her. And he flung himself down on the grass and buried his face in the hand and wept. The action of the students is like a woman or a little child because he is just not a boy or man who is brave, or he doesn't have the quality of being a man or teenager because he's just weeping for just for a red rose. Not the practical knowledge is important in his mind. So he just weeping for, so he thinks that weeping for a red rose will give him a benefit. But then the supporting characters, Green Lizard and Butterfly, say ask why he is weeping, why indeed, and Daisy also were asked why indeed, but the Nightingale says he is weeping for a red rose. The three living creatures says that for a red rose, how very ridiculous, but we know that the nightingales who only understood the secret of the student's sorrow and the reality of love. So this helping character also portrays that this student as lazy character, affordable character, because he is just trying for a red rose and weeping for a red rose. So it is a silly thing as a teenager who is weeping just for a red rose. So it also, in a humorous way, portrays the inability of getting a red rose of the student of philosophy. And Nightingale started to think in the oak tree of the reality of love and how he could help the boy in a good way. So, like he began to fly away like a shadow. Here, the simile like a shadow shows that the incident which took place in the future couldn't be understood by or seen by anyone, as the bird is flying like a shadow, because usually shadow can't won't be visible to anyone. So it will be invisible. So the good things or the sacrifice of the nightingale couldn't be understood by anyone, as he is flying like a shadow, and like a shadow she sailed across the garden. The narrator personified the talking nightingale as it is fairy tale elements, as he uses she and without flying past sailed are usually uttered to human beings who sailed in the sea and passed in the roads. Here also the nightingale is also portrayed as a human character, because even the human couldn't understand the real love and the passion, but the bird nightingale, who is a symbol of love and passion in Greek uh, mythology, is also portrayed here as nightingale is a symbol of love in that time period. So here also nightingale is the only one who understand the real love. So in order to say personify him as a human being, he used his verbs like passed, sailed, and spread his brown wings for flight. In then he asked for the red rose for red rose trees. We know that there are very different colors of roses in the reality, as white rose, yellow rose, and red rose. Here also, first of all, he's asked a tree whose roses are white and give me a red rose, I will sing my sweetest song. But the white rose tree asked the so says that my roses are white, as white as the foam of the sea, and whiter than the snow upon the mountain. Here, every tree is very seem to be boasting about himself, as their roses are whiter than the foam of the sea. We know that the foam of the sea and the snow are the whitest things in the world, but here the white tree portrays that his roses are whitest in the world as he compare it to the snow and the foam. He nightingale flew up to a rose which roses are yellow, and the yellow rose tree also says that my roses are yellow as the hair of the mermaid who sit upon the amber throne, and yellower than the daffodil of the blooms on the meadow before the mower comes his to skate. Here also this rose tree also boast about himself as his roses are yellower than uh, the hair of the mermaid and etc. So he also every rose tree is only concerned about himself and how to boast to the nightingale, so that it is in a reality the trees are only concerned about himself, but the nightingale is only aware of the true lover, and he is not selfish. He even ready to sacrifice his love for a real true lover. So we should know that nightingale is a precious bird in the world, according to this prose. So finally, the nightingale found the rosary which produced red roses, but unfortunately, its blossoms and the branches are broken due to the heavy wind and the snow which frozen his buds, and storm has broke his branches, and there are no law restorers all this year. The Even though in the winter season, nightingale asked red rose for in the red rose tree, but the tree refused to give him a red rose. Nightingale asked, is there anywhere which can I get it? But the tree replied in a silent manner, there is a way, but it's a terrible one. I dare not to tell it to you. But in this utterance also, the reader could find that the tree is going to ask me, or uh, going to tell to do a danger, terrible action for the nightingale in order to get a red rose. So the diction terrible and I dared not to tell to you shows the terribleness and the in unachievable thing of getting a red rose is portrayed here. And nightingale also, who is a brave bird, not just like a student, he says that I am not afraid of this, and he says that you should make this by moonlight, and it would be a very hard situation. You should get your thrown against the heart, so the blood of your heart will flow into my veins. Like this, the tree say to the nightingale, but the nightingale doesn't seem to be very afraid of these statements. But nightingale flew away to the oak tree and think about how to mm, think about the true love of the young student, and how his eyes are not yet dried as he wept on the convenient grass. Um, like this, Nightingale satisfied him by saying, be happy, you will shall have your red rose." Like, and the oak tree then realized that by this statement, the nightingale going to sacrifice his life. But the student couldn't look up from the grass and listened, but he could not understand what nightingale was saying to him. Here it is very ironic that the oak tree could understand the reality of the nightingale, but the student who is seemed to be having true love towards the Professor daughter couldn't understand what Nightingale was saying to him. So it indicates the theme of nature versus human in this statement, as humans seem to be less intelligent enough to understand this saying of the nightingale than the oak tree. So the oak tree said that you should sing the last song for me. Said, I will be alone if you gone away. So the nightingale sing a song for oak tree and flew in the night to produce a red rose. But in the same time, the student went to the room and took his uh, began to think of his love, the professor's daughter, and after a time he fell asleep. It is very ironic that in some moments ago he wept in the grass for a just for a red rose, but after some period he fell asleep. How could a true lover could sleep like this in the night without the lover one? But here we should know that the student is not a true lover, because he is just lazy and fall down as soon as he laid on the bed. Uh, and then nightingale went to produce a red rose from the red rose tree, and the process of the nightingale is shown very clearly by the narrator in order to say that sympathy towards the nightingale, as how it get the pain from the. We should know that when a single scratch in our body will hurt us so much, but here the little bird heart is very thrashed by the thorn, and the blood is going inside the veins of the uh, red rose tree. It is very terrible. If we visualize these incidents, it could bring us some tears in the reader's mind if we visualize here. The narrator also says that the total pain of the nightingale in order to produce a red rose is just waste or useless and sacrifice at the end of the play. And let's see how the sacrifice of the nightingale wasted uh, just for useless. After the strong sacrifice of the nightingale who produced a red rose, the tree cried, Nightingale, press you, the rose has finished. But the nightingale said, doesn't a word. Uh, uh, the nightingale voice grew fainter and fainter. This shows the real pain in our mind, as how the nightingale's life and the soul is getting away from him little by little. At last, the morning, in the cold morning, the uh, blossom of the red rose fluttered in the rim, and the petals are blooming in the cold sunrise. And the tree said, "Look, look, the rose is finished now." But the nightingale made no answer. Like this, the reader can witness the nightingale has already died on the long grass with the thorn of his in his heart. The student at noon opened his window and looked out. He also indicates at noon means middle of 12 o'clock. It shows the laziness, because the laziness of the students is indicated because the students is opening his window at noon. Mm, sorry. Um, he's just thinking that what a wonderful piece of luck. Um, he is only thinking of a theoretical way. It could be a luck, but he doesn't really thinks about the sacrifice of the nightingale, as the dead body is lying among the long grass. Usually, the little bird when it's lying on the long grass, it couldn't be visible to anyone, as it will go into soil after soon. So the sacrifice of the nightingale only known by the red rose tree, not like not the students or the human beings doesn't know about that. So the student thinks that it could be a luck, and here is a red rose, and he immediately went into his professor's daughter. Now the climax of the frost arrives that as the uh, falling action also arrives as the professors rejected the professor daughter rejected the student's proposal, and he said that you said you would dance with me if I brought you a red rose. Cried the student, here is the reddest rose in the old world. You will wear it to the night next to your heart, and we will dance it together. Tell you how I love you. Here, the student really proposed with the red rose and asked the professor's daughter to dance with me in the ballad tomorrow night. But the girl get grounded. The expectation of the student changed in an opposite way, as the situational irony portrayed here as a literary device, as the thought of the students is not happened in the reality, so that it should be a situational irony. The stream of confusion is also portrayed here as uh, it is also a similar word which can be used to the situational irony. So the I am afraid you will not go with my dresses. Here the real face of the professor's daughter is appeared as he is comparing the sacrifice of the nightingale, the red rose, to just for a address. At the starting of the prose, the nightingale said that the love can't be valuable with emeralds and balanced to gold. As I already told you, it will as just about at the ending here. The situation is appeared as just above of the starting scene of the prose, as the daughter says that it couldn't be go with my dresses and jewels, real jewels. We everyone knows that jewels cost more far than flowers. By these words, the students say that you are very ungrateful and throw the rose in the street, and a cart will went over it. Like this, the girl also said that you are very rude, and I am don't believe that you have got silver buckles, which Chamberlain's nephew has. He only compares to real love. The theme of materialistic love versus romantic love is portrayed here as the materialistic perspective of the professor daughter contrast with the proposal of the philosopher student. As this and at the ending, as the conclusion, the student ended this like a silly thing by saying, "What a silly thing is a love is. It is not half as useful as logic." Uh, as student is this student of a philosophy, he only thinks about logic and not a real love. But at the starting of the frost, the nightingale thought that this could be a real true lover, and the professor's daughter also be a kind one. But as contrast here, both of the evil the two are the evil character which ruins the little bird's precious life in an useless way. Like this, he returned to a room and pulled out a great dusty book and began to read. This bookish character, who only thinks about logic and philosophy, neglects the real love and accepts the sacrifice of the nightingale with heart of pain. Getting a thrown into a heart is lossless at the ending of the poem. as I am saying that this prose gives us a moral that love is the most precious thing in our life, which can't be by money or precious things which more can't be by merchants at all the time. Thank you for hearing.
Thank you for our senior presenter, Master Krishnalingam Banajan, in his topic, The Nightingale and the Rose by Oscar Wilde. And it is very helpful for our future English literature studies. Next, I would like to call Master Lakshmanan Kamlinpan to do his presentation on his topic, The Lahore Attack by the famous cricketer Kumar Sanghara. Next, I request Master Devigan to do his presentation on his topic, The Nightingale and the Rose by Oscar Wilde.
Good evening, everyone. Now I'm going to present on the topic of the Nightingale and the Rose. The Nightingale, the prose Nightingale and the Rose was written by the famous Irish playwright and poet, the Oscar Wilde, who was largely recognized as one of the best poets in London after winning many awards in poetry and drama writing. And as we look at the prose, at the beginning of the story, one of the main characters, the young student, appears being worried over a condition made by the daughter of the professor. The condition is revealed through a flashback. The girl would dance with a sudden with a student at a ball in the palace if he brought a reddest rose. And the student is highly worried that he cannot find a rose in the trees in his garden as it was a winter season and no red rose in all my garden. Here, the color red symbolizes passion and romance. Therefore, the girl seems to be romantic in her thoughts and requests. Romanticism usually deals with strong passion